The coffee in the airport tower was shit, as always. 3 a.m., and I'm watching red dots crawl across green screens, making sure commercial flights don't turn into fireworks displays over Ohio. My name's Colton Hayes. I'm 39, and I guide metal tubes full of people through the sky for a living. Tonight, like most nights, I was thinking about how my marriage had turned into something colder than the February wind rattling the tower windows. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. My phone buzzed. Group text from the family. Mira, my wife of 8 years, had sent a selfie from what looked like a restaurant. "Girls' night out," she'd typed, but there was a man's bare forearm in the corner of the photo, and a wedding ring I recognized. Not mine. "Looks like someone crashed the party," I texted back, trying to keep it light. "LOL, just Tanner being Tanner," Mira replied. "He wanted to tag along." Tanner. My younger brother. 7 years my junior, never married, still thought life was one big party at 32. The golden boy who could do no wrong in our parents' eyes, while I was the responsible one who paid his own bills and showed up to family dinners on time. The pit in my stomach started small, like a pebble. By the time my shift ended at 6 a.m., it felt like I'd swallowed a bowling ball. I drove home through empty streets, past the holding pattern bar where Tanner spent most of his evenings, past the old boxing gym where I used to work out before marriage made me soft around the middle. Our house sat at the end of Maple Street, a modest 2-story that Mira constantly complained wasn't big enough for her interior design ambitions. The house was colder inside than the February morning outside. Mira was already up, standing in the kitchen in her robe, scrolling through her phone with that little smile she used to save for me. Now it seemed reserved for whatever was on that screen. "How was girls' night?" I asked, pouring coffee from the pot she'd made. "Fine." She didn't look up. "Tanner drove us home. Such a gentleman." "I bet he is." She finally looked at me then, and I saw something I'd never seen before in her green eyes. Contempt. Pure, undiluted contempt. "You know what your problem is, Colton? You're boring. You come home, you watch the news, you go to bed. When's the last time we did anything spontaneous? When's the last time you made me laugh?" I could have pointed out that I worked nights to keep planes from crashing, that someone had to be the adult in this relationship, that spontaneous was hard when you had a mortgage and responsibilities. Instead, I said, "When's the last time you tried to make me laugh?" She rolled her eyes and walked past me toward the stairs. "I'm going to shower. Try not to be here when I come down." I stood in my own kitchen, drinking coffee that tasted like dishwater, wondering when exactly my wife had started hating me. The pebble in my stomach grew heavier. That afternoon, while Mira was at her office meeting with clients, I did something I'd never done before. I looked through her purse. I told myself I was looking for receipts for our tax return. That's what I told myself right up until I found the hotel receipt from the Comfort Inn on Route 9. The same Route 9 that Tanner's logistics company used for their warehouse. The same Route 9 where no girls' night out would ever take place. February 14th, Valentine's Day. The day I'd worked a double shift because Henderson called in sick. The day Mira said she was too tired to do anything special. My hands were shaking as I opened our shared cloud account on my phone. We'd set it up years ago to share photos and documents. I scrolled through recent messages, and there they were. Texts between Mira and Tanner that made my stomach turn. "Can't wait to see you tonight," from Tanner, sent last Tuesday. "Colton's working late again," from Mira. "Come over around 9. "Your husband's an idiot if he can't see what he's got," from Tanner. "Had," Mira had replied. Past tense. I sat in my car in our driveway reading months of messages between my wife and my brother. Detailed plans for their meetings. Complaints about me that cut deeper than any knife. Mira describing our bedroom problems to Tanner in graphic detail. Tanner calling me a boring loser and promising to show Mira what she was missing. The worst part? The timestamps showed they'd been meeting while I was at work, in our house, in our bed. If misery had a brand manager, it would be my wife. I drove to the Comfort Inn and waited. Sure enough, at 7:30, Tanner's company van pulled into the parking lot. White Ford Transit with Midwest Logistics painted on the side. The van taxpayers helped pay for through his company's government contracts. Mira's silver Honda pulled up 10 minutes later. I watched them meet in the parking lot. Watched my brother put his hands on my wife's face and kiss her like they were teenagers. Watched them walk into room 127 together. I sat in my car for 2 hours, watching that door, feeling something fade inside me and something else being born, something colder and more calculating than the man who'd woken up that morning. When they finally came out, laughing and holding hands, I was ready. I waited until they drove away in separate cars, then I got out of my Chevy with the tire iron I kept in the trunk. Tanner's van was still in the parking lot. He always left it overnight when he was drinking, which was most nights. I didn't slash the tires. That would have been too obvious, too much like the angry husband everyone would expect me to be. Instead, I used the tire iron to scratch a message into the paint on the driver's side door. Hope she was worth your job. Then I called his supervisor at Midwest Logistics and left an anonymous tip about company vehicle misuse. I was pulling out of the parking lot when my phone rang. "What the hell did you do?" Mira's voice was shaking with rage. "I don't know what you mean." "Tanner's van. Someone vandalized it. He thinks it was you." "Why would he think that?" "Because Mrs. Patterson saw you leaving the house with a tire iron tonight. She took a picture." Mrs. Patterson, our 70-year-old neighbor who spent her retirement watching everyone else's business through her kitchen window. "Maybe I should ask Tanner why he's so worried about his van," I said. "Or maybe I should ask you why you care so much about it." The silence stretched between us like a tightrope. "You don't know what you're talking about," she said finally. "I know exactly what I'm talking about. The question is, what are you going to do about it?" "I'm going to make you pay for this, Colton. You have no idea what I'm capable of." She hung up. I sat in the parking lot of a 24-hour diner, staring at my phone, and started to laugh. It wasn't a happy sound. It was the laugh of a man who'd just realized he'd been playing checkers while everyone else was playing chess. But chess was a game I could learn. I ordered coffee and pie and started making plans. If Mira wanted war, I'd give her one. But it would be fought on my terms, with weapons she didn't even know I possessed. She wanted to see what I was capable of. She was about to find out. 3 days later, Mira moved Tanner into our guest room. She didn't ask. She didn't discuss it. I came home from my Thursday night shift to find my brother's clothes hanging in the closet of the room that used to be my home office. "It's temporary," Mira announced over breakfast, not looking up from her phone. "His apartment's being fumigated." Tanner sat at my kitchen table eating my cereal, reading my newspaper, wearing the smug grin of a man who thought he'd won something. "Morning, brother," he said. "Thanks for letting me crash here." "Did I have a choice?" "There's always a choice, Colton. Some people just make better ones than others." Mira laughed, actually laughed, at her husband, in favor of his brother. I poured my coffee and tried to remember why murder was illegal. "I'll be working late tonight," I said. "Try not to burn the house down." "Don't worry," Tanner said. "I'll take good care of everything while you're gone." The way he said everything made it clear he wasn't talking about the house. At work, I called Coach Ray at Murphy's boxing gym. Ray had been training fighters for 30 years and had seen every kind of human drama play out in his gym. If anyone would understand what I was going through, it would be him. "Your wife screwing your brother?" Ray's gravelly voice carried the wisdom of a man who'd seen it all. "That's lower than snake shit, Colton. What would you do? 20 years ago, I'd have torn into both of them verbally. Today, I'm smarter. You don't hit back right away. You think. You plan. You get dirty, but you stay smart. The best revenge isn't hot, it's cold. Cold as winter morning. I'm listening. Document everything. Every lie, every betrayal, every stupid move they make. They think you're weak? Let them think it. Weak men don't fight back, they just take it. So take it, until you're ready to give it back 10 times worse. That night, I installed a security camera in the living room. A small one, hidden behind some books on the shelf. I told myself it was for home security, but I knew better. I also started a file on my computer, screenshots of text messages, photos of hotel receipts, credit card statements showing charges I didn't make, a timeline of lies and betrayals that painted a picture no divorce court would ignore. The camera caught them the next night. Mira and Tanner on my couch in my living room, doing things that made my hands shake with rage when I watched the footage the next morning. But rage was hot. Ray was right. I needed to be cold. Sunday dinner at my parents' house was a Hayes family tradition. Mom always made pot roast, Dad always complained about the government, and we all pretended to be the happy family we'd never actually been. This Sunday, Mira and Tanner arrived together. "Where's Colton?" Mom asked as she set the table. "Working," Mira said. "He's always working. Tanner offered to drive me so I wouldn't have to come alone." I was actually in the garage, having arrived early to help Dad with his broken lawnmower. I could hear every word through the thin walls. "That boy works too hard," Mom said. "You should talk to him, Mira. Marriage is about balance." "Some people can't be helped," Tanner said. "Some people choose to be miserable." "Tanner's been such a help," Mira added. "He fixed our garbage disposal last week, and he's so much fun to be around. He reminds me what it's like to enjoy life." I walked into the kitchen then, wiping grease from my hands. "Fix the mower, Dad. Should run like new now." The silence was thick enough to cut with a knife. "Colton!" Mom's voice was artificially bright. "We were just talking about you." I heard. I looked at Mira, then at Tanner. Interesting conversation. Dinner was awkward. Mira and Tanner sat next to each other, sharing inside jokes and touching each other's hands when they thought no one was looking. My parents kept glancing between us, clearly sensing something was wrong, but not sure what. "So," Dad said during dessert, "how's the marriage, son?" "Which one?" I asked. "Mine or the one happening at my dinner table?" Mira's face went white. Tanner's went red. "What's that supposed to mean?" Tanner demanded. "It means maybe you should get your own wife instead of borrowing mine." "Colton!" Mom gasped. Tanner stood up so fast his chair fell over. "You want to say that again?" I stayed seated, cutting my apple pie with deliberate calm. "I think I was pretty clear the first time." "Boys," Dad warned, but his voice lacked conviction. He'd always favored Tanner, and we all knew it. "You're paranoid," Mira said, but her voice was shaking. "And embarrassing yourself." "Am I?" I pulled out my phone and scrolled to a screenshot of their text messages. Should I read some of these out loud? I'm sure Mom and Dad would love to hear what you two have been up to. The color drained from both their faces. "You went through my phone?" Mira whispered. "Our shared cloud account. You know, the one we set up for sharing family photos. Turns out you've been sharing a lot more than photos." Tanner took a step toward me. "You son of a bitch." I stood up then, and even though Tanner was taller and younger, something in my eyes made him step back. "Careful, brother. You're in enough trouble already." "What trouble?" he asked, but I could see the fear creeping in. "Ask your boss at Midwest Logistics. I'm sure he has some questions about how you've been using company property." Tanner's face went from red to gray. "You didn't." "Anonymous tip. Company van parked overnight at the Comfort Inn. Funny thing about those GPS trackers they put in work vehicles these days." "You bastard," Mira hissed. "You vindictive bastard." "I'm vindictive? I'm not the one sleeping with my spouse's sibling." Mom started crying. Dad just sat there, looking older than his 68 years. "I think you should leave," Tanner said. "It's my parents' house." "I think you should leave our house," Mira said. "Tonight. Pack your things and get out." I looked around the table at my family, my crying mother, my disappointed father, my cheating wife, my backstabbing brother. "You know what?" I said, folding my napkin carefully. "You're right. I should leave. But not the house. The house is in my name. The mortgage is in my name. The utilities are in my name. So if anyone's leaving, it won't be me." I kissed my mother's forehead and shook my father's hand. "Thanks for dinner, Mom. It was enlightening." I drove home and changed the locks. When Mira and Tanner arrived an hour later, they found their belongings on the front porch and a note taped to the door. "Hotel receipts are in the bag. You seem to like hotels." Mira called my phone 37 times that night. I didn't answer once. The next morning I found a lawyer's letter slipped under my door. Mira was filing for divorce and demanding the house, alimony, and compensation for emotional cruelty and mental anguish. I sat on my porch, reading the letter and drinking coffee from my favorite mug, the one Mira had always hated, and started to laugh. She wanted to play lawyer games? I had documentation going back months, photos, videos, witnesses, and a paper trail that would make her legal team weep. But more than that, I had something she didn't expect: patience. And a plan that was just getting started. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, they say. But they'd never met a man with nothing left to lose and all the time in the world to lose it properly. The thing about betrayal is that it changes you at the molecular level. One day, you're the kind of guy who feels guilty about taking extra napkins at McDonald's, and the next, you're the kind of guy who researches the most effective ways to destroy someone's life without breaking any laws. I became very good at research. Mira had moved in with her best friend Lindsay, a bitter divorce who lived in a condo complex near the mall and spent her evenings drinking wine and complaining about men. Tanner was crashing on various friends' couches, having been suspended from Midwest Logistics pending an investigation into company vehicle misuse. They thought they'd won something. They had no idea the game was just beginning. I started with the small things: the shared Netflix account, changed the password; the shared Spotify account, changed the password; the Amazon Prime account that Mira used for her interior design business, changed the password. When she called to complain, I was ready. "Colton, you changed all the passwords. I need those accounts for work." "Get your own accounts. You're a strong, independent woman now. Act like it. Don't be petty." "Petty? You're sleeping with my brother, and I'm petty for canceling your streaming services? That's not what this is about." "Then what is it about, Mira? Help me understand. What exactly did I do that was so terrible you had to destroy our marriage and our family?" Silence. "I'm waiting." You stopped trying. You stopped being the man I married." "When? When exactly did I stop trying? Was it when I worked double shifts to pay for your business equipment? Was it when I supported your career change? Was it when I agreed to postpone having kids so you could focus on your dreams? Which part of that was me not trying?" "You don't understand." "You're right. I don't understand. But I'm learning. I'm learning that the woman I married was a lie. I'm learning that my brother is a snake. I'm learning that I wasted 8 years of my life on people who never deserved it." "Colton, save it. You want a divorce? You'll get one, but it won't be the divorce you're expecting." I hung up and went back to my research. Mira's interior design business was a small operation, just her and 2 part-time contractors. But small businesses have vulnerabilities, especially when they're run by people who think rules are suggestions. I spent 3 days going through old tax returns and business receipts. Mira had always been casual about record keeping, claiming cash payments from clients and not reporting them, writing off personal expenses as business costs, the usual small business corner cutting that everyone does until someone decides to look closely. I didn't call the IRS. That would have been too obvious, too much like the vengeful ex-husband everyone expected me to be. Instead, I sent an anonymous tip to her business partners about the cash payments and questionable deductions. Let them decide if they wanted to be liable for her creative accounting. The boxing gym became my second home. Coach Ray let me work out my frustrations on the heavy bag while he dispensed the kind of practical wisdom you can't learn in church. "You're getting stronger," he said one evening as I pounded the bag with methodical precision. "Not just physically, mentally. You're thinking like a fighter now." "I'm thinking like a bastard." Sometimes that's the same thing. Your wife and your brother, they think they know you. They think you're the same guy who used to take their crap and smile about it. But that guy's gone, isn't he? I hit the bag so hard it swung 3 feet to the left. Yeah, he's gone. Good, that guy was weak. This guy's dangerous. Ray was right. I was becoming someone I didn't recognize, someone who planned 3 moves ahead and felt no guilt about it. Someone who smiled when he heard about other people's misfortunes, especially when those misfortunes were carefully orchestrated. The call came on a Thursday morning. Tanner, drunk and crying. "Colton, you have to help me. They fired me. Midwest Logistics fired me, and now I can't find another job because they're telling everyone I stole company property." "Did you steal company property?" "I used the van for personal stuff, but everyone does that. Everyone." "Not everyone gets caught. You did this. You ruined my life." "No, Tanner. You ruined your life. I just documented it. I'm your brother. Were you thinking about that when you were screwing my wife?" He was quiet for a long moment. Then, "She doesn't love you anymore, Colton. She hasn't for years. I didn't steal her from you. You lost her all by yourself." That one hit home, because part of it was true. Mira and I had been drifting apart for months before Tanner came into the picture, but knowing that didn't make the betrayal hurt any less. "You're right," I said. "I lost her. But you know what? I'm okay with that, because now I know what she really is. And more importantly, I know what you really are." "What am I?" "You're a man who sleeps with his brother's wife and uses company property to do it. You're a man who destroys families for fun and then cries when there are consequences. You're weak, Tanner. You always have been. The only difference is now everyone else knows it too." I hung up and blocked his number. That night, I drove to the holding pattern, the bar where Tanner had been spending most of his evenings since losing his job. I found him at the end of the bar, 3 sheets to the wind, and telling anyone who would listen about his bastard brother who ruined his life. I sat down next to him and ordered a beer. "Colton?" He squinted at me through red eyes. "What are you doing here?" "Thought we should talk. Man to man." "There's nothing to talk about." "Sure there is. We need to talk about respect, about family, about what happens when you cross lines that shouldn't be crossed." The bartender, a guy named Murphy who'd been pouring drinks in this place for 20 years, was pretending not to listen while hanging on every word. "You want to fight me?" Tanner asked, straightening up on his stool. "Is that what this is? Fight you?" "No, Tanner. I don't want to fight you. Fighting would imply you're worth the effort." I finished my beer and left a 20 on the bar. "But I want you to know something. This isn't over. What you did to me, what you did to our family, there will be consequences. And they'll keep coming until you understand what you cost me." I stood up to leave, then turned back. "Oh, and Tanner? Next time you want to tell people about your bastard brother, make sure you mention why he became a bastard. Make sure you tell them about the wife and the hotel rooms and the company van. Make sure you tell them the whole story." I walked out into the parking lot, and sure enough, Tanner followed me. "You son of a bitch," he said, swaying slightly. "You think you're better than me?" "I don't think it, Tanner. I know it." He took a swing at me then, a wild, drunken haymaker that I saw coming from a mile away. I stepped aside and let his momentum carry him into the side of a pickup truck. "You missed," I said calmly. He came at me again, and this time I didn't move. I let him hit me, let him think he was winning. Then I grabbed him by the shirt and slammed him against the truck. "Feel better?" I asked. He was breathing hard, his knuckles raw from hitting my face. You destroyed my life. No, Tanner. I just stopped protecting you from the consequences of your choices. There's a difference. I let go of his shirt and stepped back. Go home, sleep it off, and tomorrow, start thinking about what you're going to do with the rest of your life, because the old Tanner is done. The guy who could charm his way out of anything, who could count on his big brother to clean up his messes. That guy doesn't exist anymore. I got in my car and drove away, leaving him standing in the parking lot, bleeding and broken, and finally understanding that the game had changed. At home, I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror. My nose was swollen and there was red stains on my shirt, but I was smiling. For the first time in months, I was smiling. The divorce papers Mira filed were a work of fiction that would have made Stephen King proud. According to her lawyer, I was an emotionally abusive, controlling husband who had threatened her and her family, destroyed property, and made her life a living hell. The irony was beautiful. My lawyer, a sharp woman named Patricia Morse, who specialized in high-conflict divorces, read through Mira's filing with the kind of professional amusement that costs $300 an hour. She's claiming you're abusive, but she has no police reports, no medical records, no witnesses. She's claiming you threatened her, but all the threatening behavior I see documented here is property damage to your brother's vehicle and changing passwords on accounts that were in your name. What about the emotional cruelty angle? Hard to prove emotional cruelty when you have documented evidence of her adultery. Judges don't like cheaters, Colton. They really don't like cheaters who try to play victim. Patricia spread out the evidence I'd collected over the past month. Screenshots of text messages, hotel receipts, credit card statements, photos from the security camera, witness statements from neighbors who'd seen Tanner's van in our driveway during work hours. This is good work, she said. Very thorough. Almost like you knew this was coming. I'm a careful man. Careful men don't usually end up in divorce court. Careful men don't usually marry women like Mira. Patricia smiled. We're going to destroy her. You know that, right? With evidence like this, she'll be lucky to get anything in the settlement. I don't want to destroy her. I want justice. In divorce court, they're the same thing. While Patricia prepared our counterfiling, I focused on the other aspects of my revenge campaign. Mira's business was already suffering from the anonymous tip I'd sent to her partners. They'd confronted her about the unreported income and questionable deductions, and the resulting argument had ended with Mira storming out and threatening to sue them. She was now working alone, which would have been fine except that most of her clients had come through her former partner's connections. Without that network, she was struggling to find new projects. I helped by leaving anonymous reviews on her business website, all carefully worded to sound like legitimate complaints from dissatisfied customers. Nothing libelous, nothing that could be traced back to me, just enough negative feedback to make potential clients think twice. Tanner was having his own problems. Word had gotten around the logistics industry about his firing from Midwest, and in a small town like ours, reputation was everything. He'd applied for a dozen jobs and gotten nowhere. He'd also started drinking more heavily, which led to him getting arrested for public intoxication outside the holding pattern. The arrest made the police blotter in the local paper, which meant everyone in town now knew that the Hayes boys were having family problems. My parents called me on a Sunday morning, 3 weeks after the dinner table confrontation. Colton, we need to talk, Mom said. Dad was on the extension, which meant this was serious. About what? About this situation with Mira and Tanner. People are talking. Let them talk. It's embarrassing, Dad said. The whole family's embarrassed. Can't you work this out like adults? I tried that. It didn't work. You're being vindictive, Mom said. Getting Tanner fired, changing the locks, all this legal business. It's not Christian. Was it Christian when Tanner was sleeping with my wife? Silence. I'm not the villain here, I continued. I'm not the one who broke up this family. I'm just the one who's refusing to pretend it didn't happen. Tanner made a mistake. Dad said. People make mistakes. A mistake is forgetting to take out the trash. A mistake is being late for dinner. Sleeping with your brother's wife for 6 months isn't a mistake. It's a choice, a series of choices, and choices have consequences. What do you want us to do? Mom asked. I want you to stop making excuses for him. I want you to stop acting like I'm the problem. I want you to acknowledge that your golden boy isn't so golden. He's still your brother. No, he's not. Brothers don't do what he did. He's just some guy who happens to share my DNA. I hung up and added my parents to the list of casualties in this war. It hurt, but not as much as I'd expected. Pain has a way of numbing itself when there's enough of it. The breaking point came 2 weeks later, at the grocery store of all places. I was buying coffee and frozen dinners, the diet of divorced men everywhere, when I heard familiar laughter from the next aisle over. Mira and Lindsay, her best friend and current roommate, were shopping together and talking loudly enough for half the store to hear. He's such a pathetic loser, Mira was saying. You should see the emails his lawyer sends. It's like he thinks he's some kind of victim. Men always think they're victims when women finally stand up for themselves, Lindsay replied. You're better off without him. I know. God, I wasted so many years. Tanner keeps telling me I should have left Colton years ago. Tanner's right. You deserve better. The funny thing is, Colton thinks he's so smart with all his little revenge games. The passwords, the business reviews, getting Tanner fired. He has no idea what's coming. I pushed my cart around the corner and faced them directly. What's coming? I asked. They both went white. Colton, Mira stammered, you were just talking about me loud enough for everyone in the store to hear, so please, continue. What exactly is coming that I don't know about? Lindsay recovered first. You're pathetic, she said. Following us around, eavesdropping on private conversations. Private conversations in public places aren't private. But thanks for the legal advice, Lindsay. I'll file it right next to your opinion on interior decorating. Don't talk to her like that, Mira said. Like what? Honestly, the way you two were just talking about me? That's different. How? Because you deserve it. The words hung in the air between us like a challenge. Around us, other shoppers were pretending to study cereal boxes while listening to every word. I deserve it, I repeated. I deserve to have my wife cheat on me with my brother. I deserve to be humiliated in front of my family and friends. I deserve to have my marriage destroyed and my reputation dragged through the mud. All because I'm boring. You're not just boring, Mira said, her voice rising. You're selfish and controlling, and you never cared about what I wanted or needed. You treated me like a roommate, not a wife. And Tanner treats you better? Yes, he does. He listens to me. He makes me feel special. He makes me feel alive. In hotel rooms that I pay for with credit cards that are in my name. Her face flushed red. That was temporary. Everything with you is temporary, Mira. Your job, your friendships, your commitments. The only thing that lasted was our marriage, and you couldn't even manage that. I don't have to listen to this. No, you don't. You can walk away just like you walked away from our wedding vows, just like you walked away from 8 years of marriage without even trying to fix what was broken. She was crying now, which should have made me feel guilty. Instead, it made me feel powerful. But here's what's not temporary, I continued. The divorce proceedings, the evidence of your adultery, the financial records that show exactly how you've been spending our money on your affair. That's all permanent, Mira. That's all going in front of a judge who's going to decide what you deserve. I pushed my cart past them toward the checkout line. Enjoy your shopping, ladies. I hope you find everything you're looking for. Behind me, I could hear Mira sobbing and Lindsay trying to comfort her. Other shoppers were staring, some with sympathy, others with the kind of curiosity that comes from witnessing a public breakdown. I paid for my groceries and walked out into the parking lot, feeling like I'd just won something important. The war wasn't over, but the battle lines were finally clear. and for the first time since this whole thing started, I felt like I was winning. The town festival was an annual tradition that brought together everyone who'd ever lived in our small corner of Ohio. Local businesses set up booths, the high school band played patriotic songs badly, and families spread blankets on the grass to eat overpriced food and pretend they enjoyed each other's company. It was the perfect venue for a public execution. I'd spent 2 weeks preparing for this moment, calling in favors and making arrangements with people who had access to things I needed. The festival committee had asked me to help with the technical setup for the main stage, since I had experience with electronics from my air traffic control work. They had no idea what I was really planning. The festival started at noon on a Saturday in late April. By 2 o'clock, the crowd was thick enough to provide the audience I needed. Families, friends, co-workers, neighbors, everyone who'd been whispering about the Hayes family drama for the past 3 months was here, waiting for the next act in our public soap opera. I found Mira and Tanner at a booth selling handmade jewelry, standing close together and laughing at something on Tanner's phone. They looked happy, which was about to change. "Enjoying the festival?" I asked, walking up behind them. They turned, and I saw the moment they recognized me. The laughter faded on their faces. "What do you want, Colton?" Mira asked. "Just wanted to see how the happy couple is doing. How's the job search going, Tanner?" "Fine," he lied. "Really? Because I heard Murphy's auto shop turned you down yesterday. Something about reliability issues." Tanner's jaw tightened. "You called them?" "I didn't have to. Word gets around in a small town, especially when that word involves company vehicle theft and adultery. I never stole anything. Tell it to the judge. Oh wait, you can't, because you took a plea deal. That was a misdemeanor. Still a criminal record. Good luck explaining that to future employers." Mira stepped between us. "Leave him alone." "Or what? You'll divorce me?" "Too late. The divorce isn't final yet." "No, but it will be. Next week, actually. Patricia thinks we'll have the settlement by Friday. You're going to love what the judge decided about adultery and asset division." I could see the fear creeping into her eyes. Her lawyer had been feeding her fantasies about taking me for everything I was worth, but reality was about to set in. "You're bluffing." "Am I? Ask your lawyer. Ask him about the hotel receipts and the text messages and the security camera footage. Ask him how judges feel about cheating wives who try to claim emotional abuse." "You recorded us?" "I recorded my own living room. What you chose to do in my own living room is your business." Tanner stepped forward. "You son of a bitch. Careful, brother. We're in public. Wouldn't want to cause another scene." But Tanner was past caring about scenes. He grabbed me by the shirt and shoved me backward into a display of handmade pottery. Clay bowls and vases crashed to the ground, drawing stares from everyone within 50 yards. "Feel better?" I asked, brushing clay dust off my jacket. "I'm just getting started." He swung at me, the same wild haymaker he'd tried in the bar parking lot. This time, I didn't let him connect. I caught his wrist and twisted, using his own momentum to send him stumbling into another display table. The crowd was gathering now, forming a circle around us like we were some kind of entertainment. I could see phones coming out, people recording what they thought was just another family fight. They had no idea what was really happening. "Ladies and gentlemen," I called out, loud enough for everyone to hear, "since you're all here anyway, let me tell you a story. A story about family and loyalty and what happens when people forget the difference between right and wrong." "Colton, don't," Mira pleaded. "Don't what? Don't tell the truth? Don't share the details of our private life? Funny, you didn't seem to mind sharing the details when you were telling everyone in town what a terrible husband I was." I pulled out my phone and held it up so everyone could see the screen. "This is a text message from my wife to my brother sent 3 months ago. Would you like me to read it out loud?" The crowd pressed closer. This was better than anything the festival committee had planned. "Can't wait to feel you inside me again," I read in a clear, carrying voice. "Colton's working late, so we'll have the whole house to ourselves." Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd. Mira's face went from red to white to green. "That's private," she whispered. "Was private. Now it's evidence in a divorce proceeding. But since we're all friends here, let me share a few more highlights." I scrolled through the screenshots I'd prepared. Here's one from Tanner. "Your husband's a pathetic loser. You deserve so much better." And here's Mira's response. "I know. I should have left him years ago. You make me remember what it feels like to be desired." Someone in the crowd whistled. Someone else laughed. Mira was crying now, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of rage and humiliation. "Stop it," Tanner said, getting to his feet. "Just stop." "Stop what? Stop sharing the truth? Stop letting people know who you really are?" I looked around at the crowd, making eye contact with neighbors and coworkers and family friends. See, for months now, these two have been telling anyone who would listen that I'm the bad guy in this story, that I'm controlling and abusive and impossible to live with. And maybe some of that's true. Maybe I wasn't the perfect husband, but I never cheated. I never lied. I never betrayed the people who trusted me most. I turned back to Mira and Tanner. "You want to know what controlling looks like? Controlling is sleeping with your brother-in-law and then trying to take half of everything your husband owns. Controlling is destroying a family and then playing the victim when there are consequences." "You're sick," Mira said. "I'm honest. For the first time in months, I'm being completely honest. And you know what? It feels great." I looked around at the crowd again. Some faces showed sympathy, others showed disgust, but they were all listening. They were all judging, and for once, they were judging the right people. "So here's what's going to happen," I continued. "The divorce will be final next week. Mira will get exactly what she deserves, which is nothing. Tanner will continue his exciting new career as an unemployed drunk, and I'll get on with my life, knowing that everyone in this town understands exactly who the real villains are in this story." I started to walk away, then turned back for one final shot. "Oh, and Mira? That jewelry booth you're standing next to? The one owned by Patricia Morrison? She's the woman whose husband you told everyone was having an affair last year. The affair that turned out to be completely made up. Funny how these things come full circle." Patricia Morrison stepped out from behind her booth display, her face hard as stone. "Is that true?" she asked Mira. "Did you spread those lies about my husband?" Mira looked around desperately, but there was nowhere to run. The crowd had her surrounded, and everyone was waiting for an answer. I thought, someone told me." "Someone told you, so you told everyone else. Just like you told everyone that Colton was abusive. Just like you told everyone that you were the victim." The crowd was turning ugly now. Small towns don't forgive easily, and they really don't forgive people who lie about their neighbors. I walked away then, leaving Mira and Tanner to face the consequences of their choices alone. Behind me, I could hear voices rising, accusations flying, the sound of a reputation being destroyed in real time. It was the sweetest sound I'd ever heard. That night, I sat on my porch with a beer and watched the sun set over the town where I'd lived my entire life. The house was quiet, but it was a good quiet now. The quiet of a man who'd finally stood up for himself. My phone rang. It was Patricia, my lawyer. "I saw the video," she said. "Someone posted it on Facebook. Very dramatic." "Did it hurt our case?" "Are you kidding? After that performance, Mira's lawyer called me an hour ago. They want to settle immediately. No alimony, no property division, just a quick, clean divorce." "And Tanner? What about him?" "Nothing. Just wanted to make sure he understood that actions have consequences. I think the whole town understands that now." After I hung up, I went inside and looked around at the house that was finally completely mine again. No more lies, no more betrayal, no more pretending that everything was fine when it wasn't. I'd lost a wife and a brother, but I'd gained something more valuable, the knowledge that I was stronger than I'd ever imagined and meaner when I needed to be. Some people might call what I did cruel. Others might call it justice. I called it necessary. The old Colton would have taken their abuse and smiled about it, would have tried to fix things that couldn't be fixed, would have blamed himself for other people's choices. But the old Colton was gone, replaced by someone harder and smarter and infinitely more dangerous to people who thought they could take advantage of him. I raised my beer to the empty house and smiled. "Here's to new beginnings," I said out loud, "and to making sure the right people pay for their mistakes. Sometimes the villain wins, and sometimes that's exactly how it should be."